Hey guys, it's John. You're on the JRB Tree Climbing channel. One of the most popular questions I get is, how would I build my own tether? Now, if you have a good design, a tether can also serve as a lineman's belt. So I'm going to show you one design that can serve as a tether or a lineman's belt. If you happen to use both devices, well then you could build two. You could vary the lengths based on what you need, or you could use a different design for your lineman's belt. Here's an existing design I gave you for a lineman's belt. It's also a DIY gear hanger. I'll leave a link to the video for this, but this is just created with TRC 6mm, and it's very, very small. But for a tether, for our lifeline that is holding all of our weight, not just a lean, I want to have something more sturdy. And so I like 8 or 9mm life safety rope. Here is my design. This is just 12 feet of, this is 8mm rope with one friction hitch on one side, with a scaffold knot on the other side, and a double overhand stopper knot on the other side. It's very easy to build, and I'm going to show you how to build one in this video. Here I've got a couple carabiners. Here I've got a 12-foot length of 9mm rope, and I've got 64 inches of 6mm TRC. I'm going to show you how to build one, but let me show you the features of this first. Let's start in lineman's belt mode. I'm right-handed, so I like to have the moving side on my right side, and I flip this around the tree. Now this was 12 feet of rope, but look how quickly it disappeared. Two fingers. I'll just grab the rope with my thumb and forefinger. One-handed operation. Okay, now as a tether, we're going to take the side with the friction hitch and we're going to attach it to our bridge, and we want to make sure that it's positioned in a way that our right hand does the work. And I've got it fully extended here to get around this big tree. Now, your choice of anchors is up to you. I'm going to use the Allegheny hitch. I take this scaffold knot and I extend it. I make it just a little bigger. Big enough to get my hand through. I position it on the tree. I make sure that the running side of the scaffold knot is on the top. I open my carabiner and I replace my finger with the carabiner. That's an Allegheny hitch. I'll put it where I want on the tree. And remove slack. Got that right where I want it. The nice thing about the Allegheny hitch is that it is extremely stable. If I tried to destabilize this, I could whip on this line all day long and it's not going to go anywhere. And all I needed was a carabiner. I didn't need a clothespin or a gizmo. If you ever notice that your hitch isn't holding or it's expanding, we simply adjust it, tune it by removing our stopper knots, taking slack out, and setting it again. I'm going to show you that now when we build one in the lab. Okay, so let's build one. Here is the device. I built this one in 8mm, and I needed only 60 inches of 6mm cord. The one we'll be building will be on 9mm rope. This is Sterling Canyon IV. It's not my favorite. It's kind of stiff, but I had a 12-foot section laying around. And I'll be using 64 inches of cord and 2 Raider carabiners. Now, you can look up the length specifications for the JRB Ascender Hitch on the page for the JRB Ascender Hitch on my website. The other end of this, and I've got it all pushed together so you can see it, right? Normally the friction hitch would be down at the other end. But the other end has just got a stopper knot. So let's start there by tying a double overhand knot. So I'm simply going to tie, this would be a single overhand. We're going to just make that a double. 1, 2, and put the end through. That's a double overhand stopper knot. Always want to leave a tail that's fairly significant. Now once that's on, we never really take it off. Let's go to the other end of the rope, and we're going to tie this. This is a scaffold knot. I've got a dedicated video on the scaffold knot, poacher's knot, and overhand noose knots. Very simple to tie. I'm going to assume you're familiar with it, but you grab the end, and I'm going to go around my finger 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And this is kind of stiff rope, but I'm going to be taking the standing part and putting it through, replacing my finger. So I'll jam that through there. That, my friends, is a scaffold knot. Let's make sure it's nice and tight. You can always make sure you've tied it properly. It's hard to inspect somebody else's, but you can make sure you tied it properly by pulling on the standing part and making sure that the loop changes size. So I've got that tied. Let's slap a carabiner on there. And now we're going to tie the compact, non-jamming JRB Ascender Hitch. And with 64 inches of cord, as specified on the length specifications page, I'm going to take a 24-inch part, and that'll be my standing part. The remainder is the working end. So this is 24 inches, and I will lay that 24-inch mark on the rope. Now, I'm only going to do this once. This shouldn't be the first time you've practiced this hitch. Make sure you know how to tie the hitch in all of its variants, because tying this compact non-jamming variant, well, it's a little bit more of a varsity act in terms of knot tying, but we get that incredible performance. And so I'll zoom in a bit, but here we go. Around the back once, around the back twice. Drape it down and cross where it started, around the back, and now I drop it down under those 2 strands. And pop it out the back. Let's give you a second to take a look at that. That's what I call the bottom stage of the hitch. Okay, now with that working end out the back, I bring it back to the left side where I started, and I'll make 5 coils, just like I made 2 here. I'll make 5 in the same chirality. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. I go around the back 5 times. And now, and I'm going to use my nail here to show you don't need the nail to tie this, but I'm going to take that and shove it up through these first 2 coils. Goes up through those first 2 coils and out the back. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to intentionally make this top section really jammed up. I'm going to spin this, spin it, I'm going to pulse. I mean, I am going to get that as tight as I can, so tight that it won't move. because slack will come back into the hitch when we finish up. So I'm intentionally jamming it. It's okay if it's tight when we get started. Let's make that top very tight. And now I bring this working end and it crosses through the bottom stage. First here, and then exits on the other side right here. It's difficult for me to verify that you know how to tie the JRB Ascender. But if you do, that's a standard 5-2-3 JRB Ascender. There's 5, it went up through 2, and you see 3 horizontal bars on the bottom. But it's really tight. I can't move it. All right, that's okay. Let's put a little bit of slack. Let's back this guy out just a little bit, because we are going to remove him in a minute. And let's take our carabiner and begin to make this, engage the carabiner, make it very compact. So what was the standing part here, this is the standing part, is going to engage my carabiner this way. Carabiner is in front of the rope. It's completely in front of the rope. And then I take what was the standing part and I go over that middle loop. This is critical to get this in the right spot. Right here. That's where it's going to go. Right where that nail is. It goes under the top strand and over the bottom too. And by inserting that nail, it actually does help make a little bit of room there. Okay. There's not a lot more to do, but that strand is popping out the back now. Now it comes around the right side, up through the carabiner, and now it'll replace this strand. So I'm going to back this one out. And replace it with this one. And if we've done a pretty good job by getting our slack out, these two ends, they should be roughly the same length. Roughly, within an inch or so, that's fine. The diameter of your rope might be just a little bit different, but I did pretty well getting those very close to the same length. And now, our job becomes putting in a flat overhand bend right here. So let's make sure we got this top all jammed up. I'm pulling this. It's as tight as I can get it. It won't even move. And I'm going to put a flat overhand bend here. That's just an overhand knot capturing both strands. But I'll be very careful to spin it really close. Like so. I'm creating an overhand knot with 2 strands. Now, if I were to just tighten this out here, well, that's no good. You see, I'd have all this slack here. I need to spin this close. A little bit of an art form here, but I need to spin it as close to the hitch as possible. I don't want there to be any room in here. I want it tight. And as good a job as I tried to do in getting this nice and tight, there's still going to be some room in there. And that will help me as the hitch breaks in. So let's back out our zoom. And now let's bang on this and try to move it. Very difficult to move. But let's twist it and break it in. Let's take a little bit of that slack and get it back into the top so it moves.
I'm editing this content in, and my apologies for any confusion, but this is the hitch exactly as I tied it. And although it will auto-tend in this orientation, it auto-tends even better if we get those loops behind that way. It's even better performance. You can see what works best for you. In fact, the hitch will auto 10, not engaging the rope at all. But I find that the best performance is this way, and that was omitted from this footage that you're watching, and so I've weaved this in.
Okay, so it's starting to move. It pays to make this nice and tight the first time. And then I'll put the carabiner now capturing the rope, and you can see how it auto tens. Now I'm going to assume for just a minute that you didn't tie this quite as tight, or maybe you broke it in a little bit and it wound up being a little loose. Let's emulate that. Let me show you what it looks like if this hitch is a little bit sloppy. It just gets long. If you start to see this kind of separation in the hitch, this space in here, you know it's tied too loose, and you can get that slack out. How? Let's untie the overhand, and let's pull on both sides. Spin all the slack out and get that nice and tight, and then put it back in. Again, when I tie this overhand, I'm not going to do it wrong. I'm only going to do it correctly. But there won't be any places where the two parallel strands overlap each other. Okay, so here's what I mean. I lied. See, that would be a problem. That would be a problem because they're overlapped. We always want this to be just as neat and compact as possible. Now, I'm experienced enough to get these right the first time, every time, because I tie them nice and tight. And once you've got that in all tuned up, then I like to put in a second one as a backup. It doesn't bother me that these ends are a little long. If you wanted to tape them, if you wanted to trim them, that's possible. But I urge you to leave at least a couple inches of tail in case you need to retie it. Okay, so on a future vision note, although I'm tying this with the JRB Ascender, in the future I'll repeat this video. I'll show you a new design with a new friction hitch, one that's just in the drawing board right now. But there are other options. You can create this with the Longhorn Agile if you wanted to. I just like the JRB Ascender because it's so compact and it's proven in use. But in the future, we'll do another video with another friction hitch. Okay, let's go and test this. Okay, so here's the beast. Let's try it out. Again, I got a little bit of a thicker tree here than your everyday tree, but I got to make sure this works. So let's start first in Lineman's Belt mode. And now notice, I'm only 2 feet off the ground. You never take something like this out into the woods and hunt on it the very first time. You want to make sure that it's been properly tested. So I've got a Lineman's Belt. Remember, this was 12 feet of rope. Well, there's not a whole lot left over. And I got that nice one-handed operation. Okay, now let's try it as a tether. And again, being right-handed, I like the fact that I can flip this around from right to left. Now, I'm going to form this just a little bit on the right here so you can keep an eye on it, but you would want this centered right over your platform. But with the Allegheny hitch, this scaffold knot, well, we've got to extend it a little bit. If it's small from the last time you used it, you're going to need to extend it just a little bit. The running side of, I've got the tail on the top, and I've got the running side on the top. You can see that the way, it's important that when you form the Allegheny hitch, the running side is on the top. And it's really simple. You just cross the line over the loop. I open my carabiner and capture the upper, and I just put that on the tree where I want. Again, I'm going to center it just a little bit to the right. You want to raise it up a little bit? No problem. I like my tie-in high. Connect this end to our bridge. And look, 12 feet of rope really disappeared. And although you'd never really do this, I can trust this right away. That Allegheny hitch really stays in place. And there you go. Incidentally, if you really learn to trust your tie-in, to trust your ropes, this is a fantastic way to spend some time in a tree. You get the tension off of your lower leg straps, and you can quietly and slowly step down to get in your platform. And if you want to take a weak side shot, this is a super comfortable way to stand in a tree for a long period of time, because you're kind of leaning into your rope and you've got this whole side opened up. Okay, there you go. DIY lineman's belt / tether. I never need both at the same time. I rarely use either, given that I've got a 3-hitch system. But you don't need to buy anything fancy. You don't need to have a sewn loop at the end. And you can make your choice of anchors. A lot of folks prefer the Bloodgood hitch. It's just a little bit more to construct. But the lesson here is Bloodgood hitch is a little bit more greedy about the rope you'd use. I just wouldn't create anything without at least 12 feet of rope. Thank you very much.